There we go. Oh, hey, don't mind me. Just set up the checkered flag, because NASCAR's back. Hey there, race fans. It's Race Day Top 5 with me, Frank 5. Happy 2025, everybody. Welcome to the calendar year and welcome to a new season of NASCAR racing. I hope everybody had a lovely off season after the 2024 season concluded last year. I hope you all had a wonderful time being with your family and friends, being with each other for Thanksgiving, being thankful for the things you have. And I hope everybody had a wonderful winter holiday celebrating Christmas, Hanukkah, all the holidays that you enjoy. And I hope everybody's having a good start to their new year. If some of you are just kind of hanging in there, if you're race fans, don't worry. We are back and we cannot wait. The 2025 season is just around the corner, starting this weekend as we will kick off the season unofficially at Bowman Gray Stadium with the Cookout Clash. It's a non-points event, of course, that we kick off the season every single year, the Clash, where we just put all the drivers together in a non-points event and they go out there and they try to put on a show and have some fun and get themselves ready as we get set to start the new season with the Daytona 500. We have a lot of storylines to talk about, folks. I mean, there's a lot of stuff really to get into about this season, and I hope you're all as excited as I am. So here are my top storylines heading into the 2025 season. Number 1, Logano going for back-to-back. This season, Joey Logano enters the year as the defending Cup Series champion for Team Penske. Of course, he won the championship last year after a lot of people at the beginning of the year considered him not to be a contender because he wasn't performing well, but then by the midsummer and then come the playoffs, he showed up when it needed to happen and got the job done, got into Phoenix, and was able to win the race and the championship. Even though people say he didn't deserve that championship, when it comes to the playoffs and showing up when you need to the most and closing the deal, Joey Logano, he does a pretty good job at stealing the deal when it comes time to getting the job done. He did it, of course, the first time he won the championship in 2018, beating out the Big Three, and then he did the first year of the next-gen car in 2022, beating out Cinderella story Ross Chastain, Dirt Star Christopher Bell, and the championship favorite entering that year in Chase Elliott. And last year, people really were predicting his teammate Ryan Blaney to win the championship, or William Byron, who was having a career, or Tyler Reddick, who got 23XI Racing to their first championship 4 appearance. But it was Joey Logano that said, hold my beer, I've done this before, and I'll do it again. And he did just that. And Logano's out to prove a point this year, I feel like. And particularly this year, odd-numbered years. Over the last couple of years, it seems like after Joey Logano wins a championship, or is in the championship 4, the following year he tends to struggle a little bit. We've seen this before. He won the championship in 2018. Then 2019 he was able to win races but didn't make the Final Four. Made the Final Four in 2020, even though he didn't win it. 2021, he won one race, the inaugural Bristol Dirt Race, but he didn't make the championship 4. 2022, he goes to the championship 4 and wins it. The following year he only wins one race, Atlanta, and he did not make it out of the round of 16. Last year, as I mentioned, he struggled at the beginning, but midsummer got his act together, got the win, and then playoffs he showed up and got the job done. I want to see consistency from Joey Logano in 2025 this year, the entire year. I want him to win more than just one race. I want him to be competitive. I want him to show why he is a 3-time champion and he doesn't have another odd-numbered year struggle season. Him and Paul Wolf, no doubt, I feel like they will put it together and show up when it matters the most. Would I be surprised if Joey Logano made the championship 4 this year? Absolutely not, because this guy knows what it takes to get the job done. All I think me analyzing the sport and every Joey Logano fan want more consistency out of him this season to show that last year's championship was well worth it. And don't get me wrong, it was well worth it. He earned it. But carry that momentum into 2025 to show that you still have that you can be more consistent. I do believe he can. They just cannot get up to a slow start like they did last year until he got that win this summer. But the big objective this year, Joey Logano is looking for back-to-back. And not just that, Roger Penske is trying to win 4 championships in a row in the Cup Series. As mentioned, Logano in 2022, Ryan Blaney in 2023, Logano last year. They're trying to do it again this year. Will it be with Logano? Will it maybe be with Ryan Blaney? Or, we've seen stranger things, could Austin Cindric possibly do that? We will have to wait and see, but big objective this year for Joey Logano and Team Penske. Number 2, new faces and new places. Folks, I hope you've got a checklist because this offseason, we've seen driver switching teams and driver switching series, well, NASCAR series, shall we say, in moving up into the Cup Series, and we've got a lot of faces in new places, so I hope you're ready to go through the checklist with me because we got a lot to talk about. I feel like that the first big storyline of drivers in new places this year would be Chase Briscoe, who is now driving for Joe Gibbs Racing. The last couple of years he's been with Stewart-Haas Racing, but now that Tony Stewart has drifted away from the sport as a team owner, Chase Briscoe lost his ride, but after Martin Truex Jr. announced his retirement from full-time competition in the middle of the season last year, Joe Gibbs hired Chase Briscoe to be the driver, and I think that was a perfect pick. Briscoe has a lot of talent, has a lot of potential. He got his first Cup win in 2022 at Phoenix. Then he went on a rough patch in 2023 where he didn't perform well, but then hit a walk-off home run in the regular season finale at Darlington last year to make the playoffs and made it to the round of 12. After that, it didn't go his way, but with Joe Gibbs Racing, what an amazing opportunity to take the ride of a driver who used to be a former Cup champion, albeit with a different organization, but still had an alliance with Joe Gibbs Racing. I have no doubt that Chase Briscoe will do very well this year with his team. Now, another Toyota team that's relatively gone through a new phase this year is 2311 Racing. After the long offseason of them and Front Row Motorsports going back and forth with NASCAR with the lawsuit regarding the charge stuff, and I won't get too much into that because I've had a headache with that stuff. But 2311 Racing is expanded to 3 cars this year. They, of course, have Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace, but they welcome aboard Riley Herbst, who has been in the Xfinity Series the last few years for Stewart-Haas Racing and Joe Gibbs Racing. He now gets his opportunity to run full-time in the Cup Series, driving for 2311 Racing in the number 35 car with Monster Energy as a sponsorship. Herbst has some Cup experience. He's run a few races before with Front Row Motorsports and Rick Ware Racing and has competed in the Daytona 500 before, but I'm really interested to see how Riley Herbst performs this season. Then another change would be Trackhouse Racing, as they've expanded to 3 cars this year. They still have Ross Chastain, they have Daniel Suarez, and now we add the Kiwi, SVG. Shane Van Gisbergen is going to drive full-time in the Cup Series this year with sponsorship from WeatherTech and Red Bull. That's right, folks. Red Bull's back in the NASCAR series for the first time since Red Bull Racing closed their operations after the 2311 season. And SVG is bringing back a legendary number, the 88 car. And I got to tell you, folks, I love that font. And he will be so much fun to watch this year. It'll be interesting to see him on the ovals and how he progresses after a full year in Xfinity and a couple limited starts in the Cup Series last year on an oval. But of course, the road courses, that's where we're all excited to see him perform and show what he has got for this year. Now, we talked about Chase Briscoe and his status for 2025. Well, what about the other 3 drivers from Stewart-Haas Racing last year? And I'm going to talk about Haas in just a moment. But let's start off first with Noah Gragson, a very electric and entertaining young man who had a much better year after a disastrous 2023. He has jumped ship to Front Row Motorsports this year, taking the charter from Stewart-Haas Racing with him to that organization as they expand to 3 cars. He will be teammates with Todd Gilliland, who will drive the number 34 car. Gragson will pilot the 4. And I gotta say, watch out for them this year. They could be sneaky good, folks. They could be sneaky good. Then we go to Josh Berry, who last year took the reins of the 4 car after Kevin Harvick retired and jumped ship to NASCAR on Fox. Josh Berry has a new home with the Wood brothers driving the iconic number 21 car, replacing Harrison Burton, who's going back to Xfinity Series. It is a big opportunity for Josh Berry to showcase his talents and really show what he can do and get the Wood brothers back up to the front where they belong. Yes, it was cool seeing Harrison Burton win that night race at Daytona last year, but they really were not performing that well. There's a reason why they got eliminated early in the round of 16. They weren't showing up, and Harrison Burton, again, I'll say this, talented young kid, but he wasn't ready for the Cup Series in 2022. They jumped him way too early. Hopefully, a year in Xfinity will gain some confidence, and maybe he'll be back in the Cup Series in the near future. But for the moment, Josh Berry's driving the 21, and I'm excited for him. And then we have Ryan Preece. He drove the 41 car last year. Now he's no longer in that ride. He has found a new home with Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing. They've expanded back to 3 cars for the first time since 2016. Preece will be joining Brad Keselowski and Chris Buescher, and he'll drive the number 60 car. This is the first time I think that RFK is running a number 60 car full-time in the Cup Series. Of course, we know how kind that number was in Xfinity with those championships with Carl Edwards and all those wins with Mark Martin. But now Preece gets a big opportunity. This is an improvement, I feel like, because RFK is getting stronger year by year by year since Brad jumped aboard. And Preece could be another interesting dark horse candidate to watch this year to try to make the playoffs. Now, as for Haas itself, Tony Stewart's no longer the owner. You'd think Gene Haas would focus solely on his Formula One organization, no longer NASCAR owner. Well, that's where you're wrong, kiddos. They are still going to be a team in the Cup Series and Xfinity Series this year. In the Cup Series mainly, it'll be Haas factory team with one car. And welcome back Cole Custer, the former Xfinity champion from 2023, back into the Cup Series to try to prove himself and still have Haas's name in the Cup Series up at the front and being competitive. Now, he didn't really run many races last few years with the next-gen car, so it'll be a little bit of a struggle, I think, with Cole Custer. But the bright side for him and Haas factory team, they are going to have an alliance with Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing. So we'll be able to see how they perform as an organization, as a fourth car, a satellite car. It's like the Wood Brothers. They have a satellite organization with Team Penske. So we'll see how that performs. But I'm excited to see how all those drivers do in their new homes from the Oz drivers in their new homes for 2025. And then Zane Smith has changed teams after he signed a contract with Trackhouse and Spire last year. Things weren't going so well for him to the point where Spire announced midseason that they were going to cut ties with him and Zane Smith had to find a new home. Well, thankfully, he's found a new home and returning to Front Row Motorsports, the team that he won the Truck Championship with a few years ago. He will be behind the wheel of the number 38 car, being teammates with Todd Gilliland and Noah Gragson. I'm happy for Zane Smith, and we saw him, after a rough start last year, actually get better as the season went on, particularly that second place at Nashville really set his confidence high and allowed him to continue to perform better as the season went on. He had a couple more top 5s and top 10s and top 15 and top 20 finishes. And this year in Front Row Motorsports, I have no doubt he'll do a lot better. And then we also have the Spire Motorsports team. Now that Zane Smith's gone, who's going to be teammates with Carson Hocevar and Justin Haley? Well, why don't we do a seat swap between those two drivers? Zane Smith and their other driver, the other Front Row Motorsports driver, Michael McDowell, will be joining Spire Motorsports this year. The former Daytona 500 winner brings that experience and knowledge to help Spire Motorsports, which as year by year has gone on, like Front Row Motorsports, they have gradually gotten better. And I want to see more performance from them this season. But that trio of drivers, Hocevar, Haley, and McDowell, they'll be fun to watch. Trust me, they will be fun to watch. And then also we have Colleague Racing. They have two new faces this year. Well, one of them is relatively familiar. AJ Allmendinger is back in the Cup Series full-time this year, driving the number 16 car. And probably his final go-around the Cup Series because he's in his mid-40s and who knows how much longer he's got. He wants to at least have one more chance of winning in the Cup level. And those road courses, mark my words, he, like SVG, is going to be hard to handle. And welcome back to the Cup Series, Ty Dillon. Yes, Ty Dillon is back full-time in the Cup Series, driving the number 10 car for Colleague Racing, replacing Daniel Hemrick, who's going to go back and drive in the Truck Series. Now, there's pressure on Ty Dillon, of course. We know, obviously, his brother Austin Dillon has had success in the Cup Series, winning a couple races, particularly a Daytona 500 and a Coca-Cola 600. Ty Dillon hasn't won anything in a long, long time. And my expectations for him this year, just perform well and don't make mistakes. That's, I think, what a lot of people are asking for and hoping for from Ty Dillon this year. Now, I think him and AJ Allmendinger will have a good relationship with each other because Allmendinger's an energetic guy and can maybe get Ty Dillon out of the shadows of maybe not being happy the last few years and maybe allowing him to find a home and be happy with Colleague Racing. But they'll be fun to watch this season. But those are a lot of the faces and new places for 2025, folks. I hope that checklist that you wrote down of all the names I've gone through, I hope you keep that in your memory the entire season. Number 3, Hendrick Bounce Back. Last year, Hendrick Motorsports celebrated their 40th season in the Cup Series as a full-time organization. And last year had quite a lot of success. Of course, William Byron won this season opening Daytona 500, won at Martinsville where all the cars were color-coded in a special chrome red, special dark red in honor of 40 years of the organization. And of course, winning it at the track where the team got their first win back in 1984 with Jeffrey Bodine and what was then called All-Star Racing. Byron was able to have a lot of wins last year, and he made the championship 4. Even though he didn't perform well on the long runs like the Penske cars did, he still can prove that he's a really good, young, talented driver and can probably win a championship. But he's got to pull through this year. As for his other 3 teammates, Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, and Alex Bowman. Larson last year, he was winning races. When he wasn't winning races, he was wrecking trying to win. Other than that, the other big highlight from Larson last year was competing in the Indianapolis 500 with Hendrick Motorsports and McLaren, which he will do again this season. But hopefully, weather will not impact him at either event, and he can do the double this season. And I think a lot of us are really hoping he can make that happen. But Larson missed out on the championship 4 last year because of the rough result at Las Vegas, and the spin at Homestead put him behind the 8 ball, and he wasn't able to win the race in Martinsville and didn't have the points. Thus, he didn't qualify. Hopefully, he will be able to be much more competitive and stronger and less prone to accidents this season when trying to go for the win. Then Chase Elliott, who had a miserable 2023 where he broke his leg, he missed a few races in the process, missed a race for suspension after the Denny Hamlin incident at the 600. He didn't win a race and he didn't make the playoffs. But last year was a big bounce back, had the best average finish out of any driver not named Tyler Reddick, and won a race at Texas Motor Speedway. He was very competitive last year, consistent, but not really winning a lot of races like you would expect him to. Although he almost won that Martinsville Fall race that would have sent him to Phoenix for the championship. But the 12 car got the better of him because of long runs at the very end. But Elliott, I think, will be stronger and bouncing back this year with more wins throughout the year and maybe in the championship four. And then we have Alex Bowman, who, like Elliott, had an injury in 2023 and did not win a race and missed the playoffs. Last year, he had a much better consistent season. He was able to win one race at the Chicago Street Course and made the playoffs. And early on, it looked like he could be the dark horse to make it to Phoenix. But that all came to a disappointing end after the race at Charlotte Roval, where he initially qualified for the round of 8, eliminating Joey Logano, but post-race inspection got him, and he thus was disqualified and did not make the championship round of 8. So, how will I see Hendrick Motorsports perform this year? I think all their cars will win the races and make the playoffs. But my advice to them, try to figure out how to beat the Penske cars or any of those guys that know how to nail those long runs on the shorter tracks at the end of the season. Because what I saw in person at Martinsville and what I saw in that championship race in Phoenix, those Penske cars get those long runs, they are hard to handle. So Hendrick Motorsports, Larson, Elliott, Byron, Bowman, any of you guys in that championship 4 or get to the round of 8, you better be ready to bring your A game for those races because Team Penske has those things covered. Number 4, new tracks this year. We have not just new faces and new places, but we have some new venues this year. For the NASCAR Cup Series, of course, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, the class this year will not be held at LA Coliseum. It will be held at Bowman Gray Stadium in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Now, for many motorsports fans, we've seen the modifieds run there the last couple of years. But this year, NASCAR is switching it up, and we're going to be going to Bowman Gray Stadium for the Cookout Clash. Again, it will be a non-points event. It's all about money. It's all about having some fun. Basically, 23 drivers will be competing in this event. 5 drivers in each of their heat races will be able to make it into the main event. And then Sunday night, prior to the main event, we will have a last chance qualifier, which will advance 3 drivers. But I'm very excited about that race. I think it'll be a very entertaining event. Let's just hope that the weather is good for that event as well. And another big addition to the NASCAR Cup Series schedule this year is Mexico City. Mexico City, which any older NASCAR fan may know, the Xfinity Series competed there from 2005 to 2008. Now, NASCAR is returning to Mexico City for the Cup Series and the Xfinity Series. They will be competing there in June on Father's Day weekend, and I'm very, very excited. A lot of these drivers have never competed this track before. I feel like there may be 1 or 2 drivers that have competed there before, and their names are Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, and I think that's pretty much it. I don't think Joey Logano ran that race in 2008 when he was just getting his feet wet in NASCAR scene in the Xfinity Series. But Kyle Busch won that race that year in 2008, so expect him to be competitive. And before anybody's asking about Kyle Busch in the Mexico incident a few years ago, he gets a pass. He will be fine. He will not be detained by officials. But I'm interested to see how this track does for the Cup Series and Xfinity Series. Now, talking about the Xfinity Series for a second, we are adding an old face back to the NASCAR schedule for the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series. Rockingham, The Rock is back, baby. Rockingham is going to be the host for the NASCAR Xfinity Series and the Truck Series on Easter weekend. No Cup events that weekend, so anybody that's a Cup Series fan, Easter Sunday, no racing this year. There will be Xfinity and Truck Series action, however, and I'm very excited. They recently just had a test there to see how the tires and the cars, the vehicles, would perform in that track. It'll be an interesting weekend, shall we say. But it's good to have The Rock back, and hopefully in a few years, maybe we can get a Cup race there. But it's all dependent on how both these Xfinity Series and Truck Series events go. And as for the Truck Series as well, they're adding back Watkins Glen on their schedule this season. We're actually adding 2 new road courses to their schedule. The Charlotte Roval will be on the NASCAR Truck Series schedule this year in a playoff race. That's got me fired up, folks. We're going to have a truck race on the Charlotte Roval. I'm so excited for that. And also, we are going to be going to Lime Rock Park. I'm pretty sure the IMSA WeatherTech cars have performed there over the ran there over the last few years. And now the Truck Series is going to be competing there for the first time ever. That'll be a very interesting race. But once again, new venues for these series this year: Mexico City, Bowman Gray Stadium, welcoming back Rockingham, adding the Charlotte Roval to the truck schedule, and debuting at Lime Rock. Should be a very interesting season. And number 5, new season means new TV rights deal. This is the first year of a 7-year deal for NASCAR and its new TV rights with the companies that will be broadcasting these NASCAR races this year. For the Cup Series this season, of course, Fox and NBC will still cover the sport. Fox will cover the season with the Clash, the Duels, the Daytona 500, all the way into the early part of May. Then, at the end of May, on Memorial Day weekend, we welcome Amazon Prime Video as the streaming service for the 5-race stretch that they have, kicking off with the Coca-Cola 600. It should be very interesting. I hope everybody has Prime Video accounts. If not, go to the race live or start preparing your accounts, because if you're going to want to watch NASCAR races on those accounts, you're going to have to access Amazon Prime for that. And then the next 5 races, you know, sometimes how they say it's like The Godfather, that line, just when I feel like I'm out of the game, they pull me back in. Maybe it relates to this, I don't know. But NASCAR welcomes back TNT to the NASCAR family, covering 5 races in the Cup Series, which will also feature an in-season tournament where the drivers will go head-to-head with one another. And at the end of the 5th race, the highest finisher of those guys head-to-head will earn extra bonus money. It don't really affect the playoff system at all. It does. It's just an in-season tournament that NASCAR has kind of taken from the NBA that's done it the last few seasons. I don't know too much about the NBA's tournament because I don't really watch it that much, but it's going to be interesting to see how that goes, and I'm excited for TNT to be back in the sport. And then the final 14 races of the season will be covered by NBC and its affiliate USA Network. They will carry the final 4 races of the regular season and all 10 of the playoff races to determine who's going to be our champion for this year. So that's for the Cup Series. Now for the Xfinity Series this year, it'll be just one lone network. Just like a couple years ago when NASCAR brought ESPN and ABC back to the scene of broadcasting NASCAR, Xfinity Series Racing was the sole home with ESPN from 2007 to 2014. This year, it's a different network. We welcome the CW Network, which has been home to sports for the last couple of years, particularly with college football or college sports with the Atlantic Coastal Conference. I hope I said that right, ACC. But they've been broadcasting those games the last few years, and now we add NASCAR Xfinity Series to the network this year. I'm very excited, and I cannot wait to see how these broadcasts will go. Now, we kind of did experimentation with that at the end of last year with the Xfinity Series playoffs and the regular season finale with the CW, but I'm really excited to see how it does for this year. And for the Truck Series, of course, it will still be Fox Sports with Fox Network and Fox Sports 1. So those are the network deals for all the race events this year with the Cup Series, the Xfinity Series, and the Truck Series. And I wish everybody that's in all those networks this upcoming season the best of luck in bringing this entertaining and phenomenal sport to your television or streaming network every single weekend. Well, folks, those are my storylines entering the 2025 season. We've got a long year ahead of us, and it kicks off this Sunday night, as I mentioned, with the Cookout Clash at the Bowman Gray Stadium. And then we start off our season 2 weeks from Sunday with the Daytona 500 on Fox. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Enjoy the Cookout Clash at the Bowman Gray Stadium this upcoming weekend. I hope everyone's excited for a lot of fun videos this year in race recaps for this 2025 season. So subscribe, like, and NASCAR, folks, is back. Have a great weekend, everybody. And for the first time in 2025, let's go racing!